Hi, you're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Keynes,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their careers, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Len Miller. Len joined Hinz Consulting in October 2016 and is a general manager and account lead. He has over 38 years of experience in federal, DoD, and commercial business development, capture management, proposal management, product support, systems engineering, software quality assurance, and program management. He has helped win over $37 billion since 1990 and has supported $17 billion worth of proposals and multiple projects worth $100 million. Prior to joining Hinz Consulting, Len joined Siemens Government Technologies, SGT, in September 2013 as the Director of Proposal Management. As SGT's Director of Proposal Management, he built a proposal group and led these proposal professionals in planning, developing, producing, reviewing, delivering federal DoD proposals. He was also a senior proposal manager and selectively managed key critical SGT-led proposals. Prior to working for SGT, Len worked for CACI International for over 11 years, where he served in the roles of Vice President, Intelligence and Classified Proposals Group, and later Vice President, Proposal Strategy and Operations Group, where he led a group of 82 proposal professionals. Wow. He oversaw proposal operations, ensuring that all CACI proposals were submitted on time, within budget, and with highest level of quality and competitiveness. He also taught CACI's capture and proposal writing courses and participated as a senior exec sponsor for CACI's BD Fellows program. Prior to CACI, Len was proposal operations manager at Ernst & Young Tech, BD director at Bid by Bid, new business rep, proposal manager at SimTech Incorporation, software quality assurance manager, and project manager at DynCorp INET, and held senior operations, business development, and technical positions at Telex Systems, supporting the development delivery of training system support to the U.S. military, foreign military sales countries, and prime DoD contractors. He's a former member of the U.S. Air Force. Len holds a BS degree in physics from Virginia Commonwealth University, Richmond. He's a member of APMP and is foundation certified. He's spoken at events on the topics of proposals, captures, BD, software quality, and career planning, and has provided formal trainings to students about proposal development, writing, capture, planning, execution. I have to say, Len, this is the longest bio we have ever read in Scribble Talk. That tells your experience, Len. Welcome to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Hey, well, thank you for having me today.
If we managed to cover 10% of what I just said now, Len, we have done well. So let's go back to the very beginning, Len. Where were you born? Let's talk about your high school and education.
Sure thing. I was born here in the United States in a little town called Cumberland, Maryland, up in Western Maryland. And then we eventually moved to a town called Hagerstown when my dad got transferred from Cumberland down to Hagerstown. And I actually went to a little county high school called Smithsburg and graduated from there. And then I had a choice. I was either going to go into college or, and I really decided I wasn't ready. I wasn't grown up enough. So I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force with about 25 other members of my high school graduating class. We went into various services coming out of high school. And that served me well. I'm glad I did. And then, of course, like you said, I eventually found my way to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond and graduated from there with my BS in physics.
Got it. Any early memories of childhood or teenager?
I think as a child, my younger brother and I grew up working with my dad. He was an electrician. That was his trade. And fond memories of going to work with him during the summer or on Saturdays when he was doing the odd jobs. And so I learned a lot. I think my brother picked up a lot more than I did in that area.
Got it. So after you completed your Bachelor of Science in Physics, did you went straight to the U.S. Air Force, or you had a break in between?
No, actually, I went right into the Air Force after high school, and then Uncle Sam paid for my education in physics. And of course, they tried to get me to come back in the service, but I decided I would try my hand in industry. So found my first job at a small company up in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, and actually stayed there for close to 11 years.
Wow. And as a kind of finishing school and going directly to Air Force. How was that experience? How long were you there in the Air Force?
I stayed 4 years, and that's where I met my wife, she stayed a total of 8 while I was still in school. And then once I graduated, she resigned from the Air Force, and then we moved up to Northern Virginia.
Got it. So Air Force has brought a lot more to your life than discipline then, Len.
Oh, yes, it did. It brought my true love and my best friend.
Oh, it's beautiful. So 11 years at your first company. I know, the world was very different then. Talk us through about systems engineering, software systems, and what was there happening in the first early part of your career, say 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, that first small company I worked with was a little company called Delex Systems, which is no longer in business. They actually got bought by another company, which a lot of that happens around here. I did a lot of programming in modeling and simulation in college. So I got hired as a programmer analyst, and I also did a lot of report writing for them. And I apparently wrote well enough that one day I got asked to write against this thing called an RFP. I had no idea what that was. And they explained to me, I said, okay, I'll try, and I never looked back after that. I kept getting involved in larger and larger proposal efforts for this small company. And I also was doing project management at the time too, for a couple of little small programs. And I continued to grow in doing that as well as proposal work, and kind of did both for the small company for a long time, and eventually chose the proposal profession as my career moving forward with that company. And then from there on with other companies as well. And that was back at the kind of the time when the Cold War was winding down. And so a lot of interesting things going on in the world at the time.
Got it. Most probably Ashley and I, we were toddlers. So.
Yeah.
Well, 35 years ago, how was RFP? I mean, what did you find interesting about then to, I'm sure you have done thousands over the years.
Oh my gosh.
What was different in that part?
Well, I think we saw a lot of issues with RFPs, and back then we didn't get them electronically. Everything had to be picked up hard copy or sent to us. And so, we were in the infancy of seeing desktop computing coming into our company. So much was done by hand, and you had to have someone type it up on a big old IBM word processing system. It was, I think back of how we used to do these. The old thing of how graphics were done, for example, truly cut and paste. People would do things up on a drawing board, and to get them into the page of the proposal, they literally would have to paste it on a sheet of paper the right way and scan it into a system that then let them merge it with the desktop publishing system. So it was quite a to-do. So we'd always have things laid out in handwriting and printing up on a wall somewhere. And so that's how we would walk the walls to do our reviews. So it was quite different than it is today.
Very nice, very nice. So then prior to starting CSCI, you also had stints with a few other companies. Talk us through quickly about your roles within the company and any interesting memories within those companies.
Sure. The company I went to after that first small company, I went to a really big company. I went to DynCorp, and it's because the former president of that small company actually recruited me to come help him start up a unit out there. And so I got involved in both capture management at that point, as well as some proposal work. And then also because of my software background, I was doing some software quality assurance work for them as well. But that actually led me to another small company that did nothing but training and simulation work, which was kind of right up my alley. And so I worked helping them capture new work and propose new work in the training and simulation field totally. So I got to deliver proposals to places like down in Orlando, where the Naval Weapons Center Training Systems Division is. I'd go up to Warminster, Pennsylvania, and deliver work up there. So I enjoyed the time of working with that small business. but it was an 8A contractor that was kind of suffering. And so it eventually had to close its doors. And that led me into some commercial work right here in my local hometown, which I had never done before. It was completely different than anything I'd done. I was out actually doing business development work and talking to people in the community and, other businesses and stores, because we sold commercial, computers to them and did training on how to use, the desktop systems and whatnot. And we'd actually install computers in people's homes and internet services. So it was kind of fun. But that eventually led me to another commercial entity called Ernst & Young Technologies. And they had been formed out of taking pieces out of Ernst & Young, as well as Capgemini Ernst & Young. And we were a separately owned company, but we supported both of those behemoth companies for about 5 years. But we were doing completely commercial work, except for some of our state and local work. We didn't really do anything for the federal government the first 2 years I was there. But I was running and stood up a small proposal shop, but we were doing all kinds of things like simple quotes on hardware and software to really large ERP implementation solutions to places like hospitals, units. And so those were really large deals. But we averaged somewhere between 36 to 38 quotes and or proposals each month. And that was just 3 of us in our little group. And so we worked a lot of hours in a day. But then 9/11 happened while I was working at that company. And I felt a calling to go back into the defense and intelligence area of this work, and led me to a company called American Management Systems, which eventually the part of the business I was with was bought by CACI. So that's how I ended up at CACI one day.
Wow, what a fascinating story. I mean, like certain parts that you make choices, certain things happens, and you just go along with the flow. But that's brilliant, Len. The important thing is you've always been very adaptive. I can hear that, whether it's different functional roles that you take, or the different sectors that you play, or the different, types of organization that you work. Have you always felt that you are much more adaptable?
Yeah, I was brought up to be flexible, learning how to make the right choices. I believe in trusting your first instincts and trusting your gut feeling, because I think you get led down a certain path for certain reasons. So you have to kind of take the clues that you're given. And I've always been one that, when a door closes, I don't believe in the brick wall. I always believe that there are at least other windows and doors open for you. The hard choice is, which one do I go through? And you have to be forgiving of yourself, because sometimes you may step through a door and you find out that wasn't the right one. So you have to figure out how to get to the right one. And just don't be too hard on yourself. Take time, make the right decisions as you're able.
Nice. So CACI, entered the company, 82 proposal professionals working for you at the time. Talk us through some interesting memories while you're there.
Well, the transition from when I was created the classified and intelligence proposal group, and then took over eventually the entire organization was quite a stressful event, if you will, because we were going through a lot of changes then, and so it was quite a challenge. That was one thing. I think I did it because that was the plan that was put in place for me, but it was still a very challenging environment. But it was an amazing organization. But there's some things going on around us that a lot of us, I don't think, really appreciated, and we didn't really like in some ways. But we had to kind of go with the flow. The company still continued to succeed, and it certainly has succeeded since then. I mean, the stock price has been through the roof at times, and they continue to grow. They continue to buy other companies, and so I applaud them, and I enjoy supporting them at times. And they've got great people across the board, great processes in place that were there. So it wasn't hard from a process standpoint to be involved with that many people, but it sure was a challenge trying to always understand where people were going, what they were doing, what their priorities were. But we had a good leadership team in place, some of which are still there today, or some that have actually come back from being there at one time. And I know a lot of people have transitioned back into that company over time. So.
Wow. So how long were you there in CACI, Len?
A total of 11 years.
Wow, 11 seems to be the number.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that. It's two places I've been 11 years there.
Nice. So after working for a large company like CACI, what prompted you to go back and work for? Then it's the SGT, is it? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's it was funny because I wasn't actually looking for a different job. I got this call out of the blue from a headhunter of all things, and I hadn't been approached by a headhunter probably in 12, 13 years at least. And I didn't even have my resume up to date. I mean, I had this horrid 14-page corporate resume that came right out of our resume database at CACI. And the recruiter said, well, that's okay. Send it to me. You're going to be perfect for this job, because I met him for breakfast one morning. And I said, listen, I'm in no hurry. I don't need to change jobs. I like what I'm doing ultimately. I like the company. And he said, but you like this opportunity. So I said, yeah, but they're not going to like this resume. It's not the kind of resume you would send out for a job interview. He said, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And so I did. And they wanted to interview me the same day that he sent the resume to them. And I said, no, I can't do that. In fact, I can't go talk to anybody for the next week. I just have too much on my calendar. And so I delayed. I kind of pushed him off for a little bit, but I eventually did talk to him, and it went really well. And next thing I know, within 2 weeks, I had a job offer to head up this new proposal group they wanted stood up. And it was a really good offer. I couldn't refuse it. It just was one of those doors I knew I had to step through, because when you look at what Siemens as a whole did back then and what they do now, it's an amazing organization globally. And the kind of work that they were in, I had never been exposed to before. So it was a challenge to learn that industry, or those industries, I should say, and the type of way that they approached that type of work, as well as how they wanted to build up their federal arm and go in that direction. And so it was some really new things, and I learned a lot of what they did and how they did it. And also I met some really great friends that I have to this day, as well as actually some consultants that I still use to this day that I used back then. And the biggest thing is it actually led me to my current employer, because they had been in existence as a one-man proprietorship, a sole proprietorship by our founder, Peter Hinz. I didn't know Peter. The only reason I ran into Hinz Consulting is two of the principals today that are the managing partners actually got with Peter and created what is now Hinz Consulting. And I was using their consultants, and they were one of the top 2 consulting companies that we used. And when it came time for me to make my decision to go into consulting, and I always wanted to be a consultant, but I just didn't know when I was going to pull that trigger. So I didn't know if I was going to become a one-man shop myself, or join a company. And so when it came time to leave, I actually talked to a bunch and had a couple of offers, but I think it's just the way that the Hinz organization, the leadership team, met with me. I think it was 5 times. And, we sit down and we actually laid out where I wanted to go, where they wanted me to go. And we came to an agreement. And, I started with them in October of 2016. It's hard to believe it's been over 5 years now. And it's a wonderful company. We've grown. I was like employee number 6, and we are now, I think, above 39 or 40 employees, and access to a lot of 1099 consultants that we vet really carefully before we put them out with any of our clients. And so it's I made great friends, and some of the former employees from other companies have actually joined us, and my network has been very valuable over the years that I've built to maintain those relationships is critical in this field, by the way. you have to do that. You have to continue to build those bridges and mend your bridges too.
Definitely, Len. How was the transition? You always worked as an employee and you were dealing with proposals. Now you are transitioned to work as a consultant, working for some big corporates or some small companies, helping them to succeed in their proposal. How did you adjust yourself?
It was an interesting adjustment because I am a full-time employee with Hinz, but at the same time, I'm out supporting clients in a different way than I did when I was like working at CACI or Siemens or wherever else, right? You have a lot of influence on these other companies, especially the smaller businesses. They look to you for leadership. So you have to really step up your game and you have to be on your A game all the time. So it's a little bit intense at times, but it's so rewarding when you help these clients succeed and win the work. Either it's the new work or it's a major recompete of existing work that they need to survive and keep their people employed. So that's the reward, is when you see them succeed. And I think I've always been a big believer in, I'll never see success unless I help others succeed first. So that's always kind of been one of my mantras, is to keep that focus in place first and foremost.
Nice. So overall, 38 plus years of experience, Len, that's amazing. And you worked with so many companies, part of Hinz. You might have supported another hundreds of projects. Do you have any favorites for good and bad reasons?
Let's see, good and bad. I think, I was thinking about this the other day, things that I would say that are really memorable in proposal efforts, for example. There's been a lot of really good memories. There's also some painful ones. But I think one of the most memorable ones is when I think it was at CACI at the time. We had been doing a capture effort, and we had been involved in it for about 2 to 3 years when we got the word that the final RFP had just been released. So our capture manager went over to pick it up on the client side on a thing called a DVD or a CD-ROM back then. And had to bring it back into a special room to print it off. And I was in another building. So they called me when they got back and started printing it off. So I had to leave that building and go over and sit down and start reading what they had printed off. And I got there just as my contracts manager did. And he and I sit down together, started reading it. And we were told it was the client's, what's called Section M, the evaluation criteria. And so we started looking at it, and he and I looked at each other at almost the exact same time and said almost the exact same words. And that it was kind of like this, is this what I think it is? And it turned out what they had put on their CD-ROM was their actual source selection evaluation plan, which they're not supposed to give out to the potential offers. That's proprietary to them. That's how they're going to, it has a lot of information that weren't supposed to have. So, we directed everybody to put their papers down and stop reading, and we had to put it all away. And a lot of people didn't understand why. And we told them, we're probably not supposed to have this. And we had to go make some phone calls. And, I had to go talk to my boss at the time so he could inform our senior management. And the contracts person had to escalate it up the contract side to legal. And we also called the client and told them what had happened. And it turned out this deal that we were chasing, we weren't the incumbent. There was a 15-year incumbent in place. And we were trying to unseat them, which is hard, right? And but we knew they were vulnerable, we thought. And so long story here is we were the first one to tell them what had happened. They appreciated that. They let us keep it. They said, just remember, we're using Section M, not the source selection plan, because we're going to make some changes to the source selection plan now. So you won't see those, but you have to follow M. So I said, that's fine. And so in the end, we won. And that has been a longstanding contract that brought in a lot of revenue, a lot of jobs for our people. But the lesson that I learned from that is always do the ethical and the right thing. Because if we had not done that, we could have been disqualified potentially.
Totally.
So I've always tried to keep that in mind, and I teach that to other people. And I actually use this story in some trainings that I have done in the past and currently about doing the right thing.
100%, Len. That's fascinating. So we talked a lot about your career so far. At what point in your career did you come across APMP?
It was actually back at my first job. I had been there about 4 years. And I don't even remember at this point how I stumbled on APMP. I think I saw an ad in a journal or a periodical. I may have actually stumbled on the APMP journal and found the local chapter. And so I decided to join, and was glad I did, because it led me down a path of understanding that this is actually a real profession. And there are a lot of people that do this. And I didn't really actually realize that at the time, that there were a lot of other people like me that like doing this type of work. And we're making a living at it. So I think it helped influence where I ended up going career-wise.
That's nice. You're not just a member of APMP. You have been a very solid, avid contributor to the community for so many years. Talk us through, what was your very first Bitcoin? Any memories of early contributions to all the webinars, talks, and other things that you have done? And I also think that you have an upcoming webinar coming soon.
Yeah, we do. We have an upcoming. I'll talk about that in a minute, as much as I can at this point. In fact, we have a rehearsal later today on that. The first actual APMP event was the local one. I helped work what we now call the Mid-Atlantic Conference. I was involved in some of the logistics planning for that up in the Tyson's Corner area. And this was a long, long time ago. The first BidCon that I went to, my gosh, I think it was local here in DC. And so which made it very easy to get to for us. Of course, the traffic around here is just nuts. When it comes to memories about that one, my memory isn't always so good, but that one, just what I think I walked away from is, wow, there are a lot of us. Now, in reality, compared to today's events that we go to, there probably were only a couple hundred folks there, but I was just blown away by that. Nowadays, when you go to the ones that don't have limited invitation, attendance, you get 1,500 folks easily at some of these events. I unfortunately had to cancel my trip at the last minute to Denver. But even that was what we were limited to, 500 folks out there. And we probably could have got a lot more people out there, I understand, if we didn't have that limitations on us. So I'm looking forward to Dallas next year. Definitely. Our upcoming webinar is going to be about whose proposal is it anyway? So we're going to have some fun with that. If you've ever watched the syndicated show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? We were kind of modeling a little bit after that. So we're going to have fun. We try not to take ourselves too seriously. We have a lot of fun in this company, and we try to have fun with our clients too. But we do get down to business when we need to. But I have always told my teams that I have mentored and led over the years that, listen, if you don't have fun at what you do, you need to find something else to do, because you spend so much time at it, right? And you have to enjoy it. You have to like being around these folks. You have to have fun with them. Enjoy life as much as you can, because we're only here on this earth for a short while. So, so that's just an attitude that I try to get others to adopt, because I try to live by that as well.
Nice. Then I think before I hand over to Ashley, I thought I'll set it up. So many achievements, so many proposals, so many roles that you had, so many companies. But tell us 3 things not many people know about you.
Oh, 3 things that not many people know about me. Well, first, I did meet my true love and my best friend and my wife in the Air Force. The thing that most people don't realize is we were actually breaking rules by even dating, because I was an enlisted man at the time, and she was an officer. But we handled that very professionally. And we also got stationed in Alaska together eventually, and we're up there together for a year at a remote radar station. And when she told me that she had a chance to come up there, I had to go talk to my squadron commander, the major. And I said, I had to lay it on the line to him. I said, sir, this is the situation. She's not going to do this unless you approve. And he approved. And he said, just be professional. And we were, and it worked out. I mean, we trained a lot of airmen up there in the jobs that we did, and helped defend our nation, because we were in the Cold War at that time, and interesting things that I still can't talk about, these days. But it was a blessing to be around her. It was almost like our first year of being married, because we were together every day and working together. The other thing, the second thing, I've flown a biplane. My former neighbor used to have he still has his own biplane. I don't think he's flying it as often, because he's retired from the Navy, he's retired from United Airlines, and he used to fly for a local place in here called the Flying Circus, where they do all kinds of stunts and wing walking and things like that. But my wife got me a present one year and took me. He took me up on a flight and he let me fly it. And so I love to fly in general. So I'm not a pilot yet. Anyway, I'd love to become one, but it's an expensive habit. And then I've actually started 2 novels, different stages, but I haven't made enough time to finish them. And so my goal is to finish both of them before I quote unquote retire, whatever that's going to be.
Wow. These are one of the unique 3 things that we heard, Len. I think you have a long list of hobbies and interests and so many other things. I think Ashley will dig deeper on that. But thank you, Len. Thanks for sharing your first half of your story.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Wow, Len, I've known you for a long time, but I've learned so much about you on this podcast already. So we're curious, what do you do in your free time? I know you say super busy, with Hinz Consulting, but you've got to do some things to kind of decompress and have fun, right?
Oh yeah, the biggest one for me is I love to fish, and I still don't spend enough time doing that. But the nice thing is, the 2.5 years ago, we moved to our forever home, and we sit on a 4.5 acre lake with 3 other families, and this lake is fully stocked with bass and crappie and sunfish, and I can just take a break for a couple hours, walk down into the backyard right off the shore and fish. I just did this last Sunday when I was taking a break from something else, and because the weather was just beautiful, and I caught 6 fish within an hour, and I was happy. So I try to do that when I can, and then I take the little unpowered boat out and do that as well. I love to read. I love to read good fiction or good autobiographies or biographies of people. Sorry. We have a garden, so we like to garden. My wife does better gardening than I do, though. She's got the green thumb, not me. But my wife and I love to travel, even just driving around rural areas, back roads. We love to explore. And when we get a chance, in fact, we're overdue getting out to Montana and Wyoming and Idaho area. We love to go out there and get on the back roads, and and we've been in some really hairy back roads out there, as you can imagine, up in the Rockies, and had to back out completely from where we had gone for about 21 miles because we hit a dead end. And so it's fun, some of the views you encounter in places like that. But the other thing that we do to relax here, this little lake there, we have a lot of Canadian geese down here in the Culpeper, Virginia area, as it turns out, and they stay here for the entire winter. And so these geese, we get upwards from 60 to 70 at a time, and different waves that come in, and we actually put cracked corn out for them, and they love to come up to us, and we feed them. Not by hand, you have to spread it on the ground because they don't like you touching them. But we had a Muscovy duck. I don't know if you guys know what a Muscovy duck is, but they're black and white and gray, some of them, and they've got this red bill, and they're really interesting looking. They're a large duck, and he just showed up out of the blue one day, and he's very docile, came right up to us, and so we fed him. He stuck around. but he seemed kind of lonely. He liked to be around the geese, but he had no other ducks. So we actually purchased 2 more Muscovy ducks, and he's happy as he can be right now. So we enjoy just watching them. So that's a really interesting de-stressor for us all. And so we just love doing that. And then I love mentoring people too. It's fun, watching young ones in our profession, or just young people growing up and going off and being successful in whatever they choose to do. So I love doing that sort of thing.
Oh my goodness. Wow. You do a lot to keep busy, but sounds super enjoyable. It's very interesting about the ducks. Have you named those ducks?
Yes, we have. The first Muscovy came, his name is Howie. And the other 2 are named Roger and Oscar.
Oh my goodness.
And I know where Howie came from because my daughter named him. But Roger and Oscar just came to us, and it came, out of the blue, and it stuck. And we can tell them apart because they do look different. You just have to remember who's who. One's much more independent than the other one. The other one sticks with the older duck a lot closer.
Oh my goodness. That's so neat. So what about the, local DC teams? Do you follow any of those sports?
Yeah, the Washington Nationals are our team. My wife and I kind of adopted them when they first came back to town, and we went to RFK to see some of the first games, and then followed their whole transition. And we couldn't get a ticket when they were in the World Series. Obviously, that was hard. It was probably unaffordable on top of that. But we watched every game, cried when they won. That whole thing. And then the last 2 years have not been tremendous, shall we say. And this last year was certainly disappointing, but we're faithful to them. And so love watching them on TV because we love the announcers that we follow carefully too. So, but and I watch a little bit of hockey, not much of a Washington football team fan, especially since they changed their names. But because I'm old school with them, I go back to the Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kilmer days. But oh
wow!
So I kind of follow them from afar.
Very cool, very cool. Those Nats games can be super fun, though.
Yeah, they definitely can be.
All right, we're gonna move over into kind of our random rapid fire questions round. Len, are you ready?
Sure am.
All right. So share one funniest, one silliest, and one wackiest status you've put up on a social networking site.
Oh, geez. I'm trying to recall. One of the things I think that was kind of fun that I put up was it actually had to do with baseball. And I got into the whole issue of how you can follow and believe in following your dreams. And I went through a couple of the analogies with some of the baseball movies that are out there. Field of Dreams, of course, is the big one that probably everybody recognizes. And every time I'm even thinking about that movie now, and I'm getting goosebumps because that whole thing that Kevin Costner goes through in hearing that voice, which people thought he was crazy, but it's that you kind of have to think about that being your inner still voice that's helping you follow where you need to go. And if you take the right path, the payoff will eventually be there for you. But along the way, you're trying to help others. And that's always stuck with me. That wasn't really funny. I'm trying to remember if I actually posted anything funny. Sometimes I'll get into things, and Allie Paskins, she has got the most interesting posts sometimes, and I just could go back and forth with her on some of her posts, and comments with her. So we have a blast with that back and forth. The things I don't like personally on LinkedIn in particular, I don't like seeing the political stuff appear. People could take that to other media, but keep it off of LinkedIn, for example. I just let's keep it professional, but let's keep it fun. And so there's times that things are borderline, and people will talk about that, and that's okay. But I just, let's use that site for what it's meant for, in my opinion. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I can agree for sure. So what is one trait you like most about yourself?
Let's see, one trait. I think that people can trust me. In fact, that's one interesting thing. I was probably a young teenager, and I can remember one of my pastors actually just coming out and flat out telling me that one day you're going to be a good leader. And I went, what? I didn't know what that meant. He says, because people find it easy to talk to you and you listen. And I didn't know it at the time, but that is probably one of the biggest traits of a good leader, is that you listen to people, and you don't just sit there and stare at them and listen, but you observe, you look for the body language, you look at, you hear the the change in their voice when they're answering a question, or when they're just, you can pick up the emotions, and you have to have that empathy with them, right? And so I've tried to make sure I do that when I'm working with anybody, whether it's the kids here at the house, my wife in particular, friends, family, people that I work with, people that I am actively mentoring, and then clients, especially, because I've got to pick up on what their real issues are, about either something that's going on with the deal, with the client, with their customer, and because they're under stress, all that type of stuff. So, but I think people have to trust you. And in our business, trust is, you have a chance to earn it, right? But you have one chance to blow it, and then you're probably done.
Right. Yeah. So true. It's a very, very important skill and trait. So what random stranger has had the biggest impact on your life?
Random stranger. Let's see. Whether it's the biggest or not, my wife and I have a habit, and we have a date Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning, unless it's something going on that we can't help. And that's rare. And we love to walk around town if the weather's good enough for us to do that. And we get, good exercise in. But we don't think about this, but we've had so many people just random. I mean, these are strangers that stop and say, I enjoy seeing you come by here because you guys are always holding hands. You're always smiling. And it just had a big impact on us, because we realized we're having an impact on others and we didn't realize it. Yeah. And I think that's important for us to keep that in mind. You just never know when you can influence someone else positively and or negatively too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that story. So what is the naughtiest thing you've done in school?
Naughtiest thing?
Yeah.
Probably back to my senior year in high school, when I skipped. Boy, I'm glad my parents aren't alive. I skipped my senior year we had a skip day, and the school kind of turned the other way and let it happen, right? They didn't come after us. But the weather was beautiful that June, and we all went to the local lake. And if I recall, we did something called skinny dipping. Yeah. That was probably one of the naughtiest things I probably have ever done.
Wow. I could have never imagined that story coming from you, Len.
No, I know. I tell that to people, and they go, you? Yeah. Not today, but back then, yeah.
Wow.
I was kind of a rebel back in my junior and senior year in high school.
Oh my goodness. A side of Len I've never seen.
And most people wouldn't want to see, by the way, Ashley.
So what song do you sing only when you're alone, and what memory does it bring back?
Oh my gosh. Oh, boy, I haven't thought about that in a long time. The Wind Beneath My Wings is a song that's had a lot of impact to me, because so many people, I think, have supported me personally and professionally, and have been that wind that have kept me afloat and soaring to new heights over my career and my life. I can't sing it well. I'm not a singer, although there is a story that I actually was in my senior play, a musical, as I don't know if you and Beskar know the movie Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh yeah.
I was Mr. McAfee, who Paul Lynde played in the movie on TV, and Paul Lynde actually had a pretty good voice, but I sang in my church choir a little bit, but I never did any kind of real vocals or solos or anything like that. But I had a solo in this. I had to try out. I had one of my good friends played the guitar, and he accompanied me when I sang a John Denver song, "Sunshine on My Shoulders," which I really like. I'm a big John, and my wife is a big John Denver fan. And I was so nervous for that, and back then I was really nervous in front of people. So why am I trying out for this play? Well, my high school teacher, my English teacher, who was the director for that, convinced me to try out. She said, "It'll be good for you. You need to learn to do stuff like this." I'm like, why? Yeah, but I was glad I did, because I actually made some friends that I did not really associate with out of both my high school senior class as well as my junior class. So it was really nice, and it was good to do, because it did help me kind of come out of my shell a little bit more.
Wow, very cool. What a great English teacher to get you, encourage you to do that.
Yeah, Mrs. Trasker, she was incredible.
So what would your ducks say about you if we asked them for a reference?
He mostly shows up on time. He always has the food that we need, and always looks out for our best interests, and we can trust him.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like those ducks really like you.
We think so. They like all of us. They hear us coming and see us coming with the food, because we keep it in a couple of pitchers when we go out, and they've gotten used to that sound and the sight of it. So it's funny, the ducks and the geese, if they're across the pond, the other side of the lake here, they will literally fly over onto our side and land in front of us. Wow. It's a little bit intimidating. Anybody who's never been around Canadian geese, first off, they're large birds, right? Mm-hmm. Can you imagine about 40 to 50 of them flying straight at you?
That could be terrifying.
Yeah, they don't hit you though. They just land right in front of you and then run up to you. So, but they fight amongst themselves. So it's kind of like trying to get them to make peace with each other.
Yeah, wow. What is something you've tried that you'll never ever try again?
Probably. For me, I am not really very handy, so I'd probably never try to build any kind of a piece of furniture ever again, because I think the last time I did that a long time ago, it was an utter failure. Now my son is great at that, so he got that skill from my dad and his father, his grandfathers. Not me. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine that making furniture is an easy task.
No, it's a skill that I just love to see people do it, but it's not something that I'm good at.
So what is your favorite movie and why?
Field of Dreams. That's an easy one for me. That I don't know how many times my wife and I will watch that, and it's like every time we see it, the same reactions. I mean, Again, I'm sitting here talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps. There's so many parts of that just make the hair on the back of your neck kind of raise up, and you go, whoa. Because even though you know what's coming, it's like it still has that same reaction. So, because the message is enduring, I think when people, it's not just, it's good entertainment, but at the same time, it's got really beautiful messages throughout.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Such a great movie. So who are the people who've been the most influential in your life and career?
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, there's so many. Who is the most influential? Let's see. First and foremost, I would definitely say my wife, because she has been so patient with me through the years. and you know, from this profession, the kind of commitment you have to make. Once you get into a deal, it just gets kind of crazy, right? And so she understands that. She may not always like it, but she's always hung in there and, stuck with it. And, and it usually pays off in the end, right? For us, it's just been good. Then when I get into the supervisors and leaders I've had that have helped me at the different companies, they've just really, it's really played out for me in general. I mean, my parents, I think they taught me so much in terms of how to treat others, how to do the right thing, the ethical thing. And then when you're in this business, and I was a very junior at my first company. I was managing my first team of people on a project. And I had never had to do this evaluations of people before, but I had actually had this older gentleman who was working for me, which is kind of interesting. Here I am, a young 20-something, and I've got this gentleman who's at least, 20 to 30 years older than me working for us. And we were having issues with him. And I was really frustrated. And the division manager at the time, who eventually became our president of the company, who is the one that recruited me to go work at DynCorp one day. Of course, I didn't know all that at the time. He heard me complaining about people, and he said, "But Len, remember, people are what make this business happen." And that has stuck with me. It's got, they do. You have to treat them well. You have to know how to deal with the situation, and that I learned a lesson that day from him. And he didn't do it, and he just matter of factly told me that, and then also the types of leaders that I've been blessed with. I mean, go back to how I arrived where I am today. If the leadership team at the time at Hinz hadn't taken the time to sit with me those many times and let me help shape my path with them, I'd be somewhere else. I don't know what I'd be doing ultimately, right? And that's what it was just meant to be. But it was the kind of people that they are that have really helped me, I think, hopefully go to my next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Invaluable how good leadership can be in your life, right? And your career and shaping your direction. Yeah,
most definitely.
So what have you observed lately that has reminded you that people are good?
Oh, this is an interesting little story. And you've probably observed this, but it was just recently. I don't even remember where I was driving, but I came across a car stopped in front of me, and it was a mom and a daughter. And the mom was making sure everybody stopped, that they didn't, because her daughter was out in the road helping a turtle cross. And she literally picked it up and put it, because, wanted to get across safely and not get crushed by cars. And so that was just a pure act of kindness. They didn't have to do that, but they knew that was the right thing to do. And again, it reinforced that whole idea of, take the time to do the right thing. It's not going to cost you. And again, somebody will observe it, and you're not doing it because of that, but someone may observe it and it'll impact them. And it's always stuck with me. And I see this every now and then. My wife does it all the time. She taught me to stop for squirrels. Anything that runs out in the road, I'm stopping for it. I just don't like, sometimes you can't avoid that kind of stuff. Right. But it's like, I make every possible way to avoid hitting anything like that in the road. So,
definitely. What is the biggest lesson life has taught you?
Oh boy, the biggest lesson, I think one is it's kind of a two-part thing. One is believe in yourself and believe in others. And then if you really want to succeed, first invest in the success of others, because that in turn will help you succeed. And all that belief in that success, they go hand in hand. Because I don't think you can succeed if you don't believe.
Yeah, wow, definitely. So, Len, you've had this amazing career and you've impacted so many people and done so much for the industry. What's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
Just one thing.
Just one.
I think, when I began this career, or when I stumbled into it, or was I was seduced into the dark side of the career. I didn't realize that this was a profession, and I think I probably could have sped up this if I'd have really known, and if I'd immediately known where to look. If I'd have known about AP&P from day one, maybe even coming out of college, for example, I might have been more, influenced by making that career choice coming right out of college, which we can do nowadays, and we do with people, which is great through our mentoring programs. And so that's probably the first thing that I thought of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true for so many of us who have started out in the career not knowing exactly what it was, and so many people just fall into it. And yeah, AP&P, life changer.
It is.
Game changer. So what is the best piece of advice you've received and who gave it to you?
The best piece of advice. This was actually, I think, it goes back to several of the business mentors that I've worked with over the years, who they actually taught me about goal setting and following your dreams. And so I think it was about how to do that, how to keep those in front of you, and just, let your mind focus on them, subliminally while you go about your day. Because the mind's a funny thing. It does a lot of parallel processing, and it can influence you, and you don't realize it until you look back and go, wow, that did happen the way that I wanted it to, or the way I thought it would, And, I did a funny thing one time. Someone told me this little story. They said, take the top 5 goals that you want to achieve, put a date by them, and then fold them up, put it in a little paper, right? Fold it up, put it in your purse or put it in your wallet. Forget about it. Just keep it there. But what you want to do is every now and then take it out, read them, and put them back in, and then let it go again. He said something funny will happen. Your mind, and you will learn to process those, and eventually those things will happen for you. And I had forgotten that I'd even put them in my wallet one day. And one day I actually stumbled on, because I was cleaning my wallet out, which I have to do occasionally.
Yeah.
And I found these, and I went, oh my gosh, every one of those 5 things I'd put on that piece of paper had come true. Now, were all the dates exact? No. I mean, that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to get your mind focusing on them. And that's one thing that I try to talk with people about, is, how to do that. And don't make those dates be so much in concrete. Be flexible with your life, because life happens, right? You don't control life, but you don't want to let life control you either. So you have to balance things and be flexible, and reset. Know how to reset and be forgiving of yourself, because you have to just be flexible sometimes, and sometimes you need to take a different path. That's why sometimes it's good when you're doing that planning with someone, is let them see alternative paths that they can get to. So if they have to back up or take a parallel jump, they have a path to do that. And I'm working with a couple of people right now where I'm mentoring them, and they're going through the exact same thing like that. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Len, you've had such an amazing career. You've done so much. We're curious, what is next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, I've been such a procrastinator when it comes to my own career at times, especially since I joined the company here. But this goes back years. I'm now in the throes of getting ready to take my exam for a practitioner. I put that off so long. It's just been stupid of me to delay. But then as soon as I get that done, then I'm hopefully this next year, my plan is to go ahead and do the professional certification. And so I want to do that. This is a pure goal for my career. But then I'm about for my own personal plan, about 4 or 5 years away from where I have set my retirement date. But so I want to start shifting to do a lot more training of young professionals in our industry. And that's why I've really shifted to getting more involved in mentoring programs lately. I helped start up our own internal mentorship program last year in the middle of the pandemic, of all things. And it worked. We did our beta rollout, and then we launched the full program this past June, and it's working. We've made our changes that we want to make, but then I've gotten involved in outside mentoring programs too through APMP, and then I've developed mentoring over the years that I have stayed involved with a lot of people. And it's not the kind of thing where I meet with them once a week or anything. It's just we have a relationship where we can call each other at any time.
Yeah.
And then we talk through things, and then we may not hear from each other again for months, and then all of a sudden, boom, I get another call or I call them. And so, and that's the kind of relationship I want to have with people and know how they're doing. And then, I think what I get into the more of the whatever retirement really is, I want to do some more volunteer work here in the local community, and when the kids are young, for the first 15 years, once they started playing Little League, I was coaching all the time and umpiring. But when they got old and got out of that, I got away from it and I got busier in my career. So I used that as an excuse. Well, maybe I should get back into it as long as health allows. But then I had my wife had an uncle who was a retired executive, and he got involved in an organization called SCORE, SCORE, Society for Retired Executives. And there's actually local chapters all over. And I didn't realize that they were that prevalent. And so there's actually local ones down here in my area. So it'd be nice to maybe get involved in the community and helping young executives, young businesses, kind of get off the ground, or just provide free advice, that type of thing. So, and then we're going to hopefully do a lot more traveling than we're doing now. As this pandemic hopefully does get under control, and and then we're going to watch a lot of baseball. One of my dreams would be to love to visit all the Major League Baseball parks somehow.
Oh, yeah.
But that would take a lot of time off. So that means I have to be retired to do that, right?
Absolutely. All the motivation to make sure that happens, right?
Yes, most definitely.
Oh, well, Len, it's really been amazing to have you on Scribble Talk today. Thank you so much for your time. Wish you all the good health and happiness. Please continue to inspire bid and proposal industry colleagues and everyone else around you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invite and enjoyed talking with you and catching up with you, Ashley. And nice talking with you as well, Bhaskar.
Thank you so much, Len. You take good care.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundaram,
signing off.